Hi there everyone, it's good to be back. We're going to have a discussion on premarital counseling tonight. But before we do that, let me introduce myself. I'm Marcel.
I'm Toinette.
And I'm Tamega.
Yeah, fantastic. Yes, as I said, our discussion tonight is on premarital counseling, and we were in discussion earlier on. And Tameka had an interesting question that she wanted to bring up, and an interesting perspective pertaining to the subject, you know.
Of the premarital counseling. And I had asked if with premarital counseling, is it only done within the confinements of a church, or can you go anywhere else to get counsel before you walk down that aisle? Because we do understand that you are now signing your life away. Sorry, in essence or in a sense.
Yeah.
And once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
You're not going back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm curious because I know that most people go to a church to speak to pastors or heads of departments within church, but can anybody counsel you, or do you need to have a specific certificate, or I'm just curious to know.
I would like to answer on that. My opinion is that our churches do it, yes, and pastors, but I say it with respect that some of these pastors, they didn't have formal training on how to do marriage counseling, but because the church is marrying you, they feel that they have the right to counsel you. But not just the church, Tamega. People can counsel and give premarital counseling if they are qualified counselors, specializing in psychology, and family issues. They have the right to counsel because they've also studied for that. And yes, some people, a pastor that we know, has done formal studying on counseling and marital counseling. So I know you can formally study and become accredited and counsel people, but most people these days sometimes just counsel,
Look, the question is, what is the idea behind counseling or premarital counseling? The concept is basically, again, in my opinion, is basically to allow you to do some introspection and preempt potential issues that you might have that need to be exposed for the well-being of your relationship, or that your partner might have that need to be exposed, not just for your relationship, but so that they are aware of a potential weakness, an issue that could harm the relationship. And that's the whole idea behind the premarital counseling, that you don't go 5 years down the line and you realize, oh Lord, I've run into a brick wall here with this person, the point is to have a long-term relationship with as minimal thorns along the road that you're stepping on, in a sense, So I suppose that's the purpose of it.
Sorry to interject, but then again, I think, should it be done once before we get married, or we need to check in again after a couple of years?
Very good.
Because then now we are doing real life. We are now living. We're now in each other's faces on a daily basis. Life is now throwing curveballs. Unforeseen things are coming our way. You're now dealing with this person and you're thinking, oh my goodness. But for me, I think, so I'll share stories. I will not mention names, but friends would say, when we had premarital counseling, it's so outdated, and these are friends who have been married for over 15 years, so to say, and they're thinking maybe things need to be done differently now. So much has evolved. They're saying now, before, people were so, I don't know what it is about talking about finances. I don't think, and let's say, Tamega, had it been we discussed our financial some of us wouldn't be the messes that we're in. Because they would only cover respect, communication, being intimate, not running to family about your problems. But they said, listen, there's so much that needs to be addressed.
And you know what? The famous issue, which I'm so sure some of you can relate to, is the toothpaste one. You know, in counseling, where they say, do you squeeze the toothpaste on the top or at the bottom?
Sorry, I got shouted at by my significant other many years ago because I had squeezed the toothpaste in the middle. I won't forget. He's probably forgotten. And he was like, why you squeeze the toothpaste like this? And we went and squeezed the toothpaste.
I'm a bottom person.
So that's where I want to agree with you, like you said, respect and basically relationships and communication. And where if you have a misunderstanding about the toothpaste, how are you going to overcome that? But you're right, there are so many other life skills that's not being touched on.
True.
Especially like finances. How do we save? How do we deal with finances when we're in deep financial trouble? Having a will, making provision for your children, leaving an inheritance. A lot of other life skills that are never ever touched on. And the other thing that I have a problem with, and again, I'm not pointing to a specific church, but I'm talking about the church in general, that specifically churches, when they do premarital counseling, it's just too short. And a lot of issues are not being touched on, and you've raised an interesting point. It should be done almost like, a follow-up. We're a few years into marriage. Toinette and myself, how's things going? Let's talk, let's touch base. It's just not being done, Yeah.
Look, the fact that we're never the same people that we were 5 years ago is a critical part of it. So you're growing as a person, you're growing as an individual, your perspectives are changing, your expectations are changing, your desires are changing, your friendships are changing, your partners having the same experience. So with all the change that's happening, you aging and have a different perspective on how to live your life. And with all those changes, it's important and critical. I think that there should be a follow-up experience. I reckon even after 2 years, or even after 18 months, because already then, some issues come to the fore, and there's knocking of heads, at that point already. But a very important thing is that this issue of the time period in which the counseling is offered. I think you hear a lot of people talking about six weeks to rush through, or 3 months, but then one of the pastor friends of ours, he says he does counseling for 6 months, because there's so many questions that come up and you don't have sufficient time in the short period of time, if it's 6 weeks or even 3 months, to really practically go through and think about what is it that I really want, what is my real expectation, not this pie in the sky thing that, lovey-dovey honeymoon and attitude, but the real deep issues. I know most of us, I think everybody, when they're going into marriage, they don't actually want to ponder on the issues or potential issues. So we avoid that talk, because it already produces caution in the relationship before you even commit. So I think that's one of the reasons why people don't approach counseling in such an intense way, because it produces or brings forward issues before you even had your honeymoon.
And something else that I want to mention, two things. The churches don't prepare people properly. A lot of couples focus on the wedding, They spend so much money and time preparing for the wedding, and with respect to impress people and how their wedding day is going to be, that they completely forget about this marriage. Like you said, signing your life away, spending the rest of your life. And the church, again, or counselors do not prepare them properly. And the other thing that I have, a pastor also said so nicely, and I really like that. He said he tells couples, if you're not prepared to have at least 6 months counseling, then I cannot marry you. And I think that is just fantastic, you know, where he has the guts to say, because there's so many things, like we mentioned earlier on, that it's done so quickly, and people are not being taught or trained or being prepared, that's the word, for marriage, that they miss out on a lot of things. And he said even once with one couple, he said to them, I'm sorry, you're not ready. Even though you set the date already, I'm so sorry, you can't get married. And I think if everybody can just get to that, you know, to make that sound, that would be good.
Wow, interesting, because going back to the friends, and for mentioning that, you know, I'm now remembering the conversation that I had with these friends of mine. And that said, one said, had I known the relationship he had with money, because I did not know that he had such a bad relationship psychologically with money. He hid so much away from me, and I only found out months down the line. And now you are now tied to this person, and ultimately you now need to address his financial issues, because now you become burdened by essence of being married and attached to this person for life. And she said he was supposed to disclose it before we got married, but he did not. So I think we really need to have honest conversation around so many things that contribute towards what this union will be in life and whatever. I mean, even things like your health status. You need to be listen, and if you're uncomfortable about having this conversation, then what are we doing?
You have a problem already.
You have a big problem already.
Yeah.
And then also, it's to say, what are your expectations? Because there's some people who, it's not just like butterflies and all the bubbly feelings or physical attraction. For me, there's the shallow part. You look at the outward appearance, but it's more than that. How do we conflict resolutions? What kind of a person are you? Do you just shut down and then I'm a communicator? Do you understand? There's so much, and I agree to the 6 months. You know, where you now let's address this matter. What kind of person are you? How do you, when there's conflict, how do you resolve it?
Very good. And even your strengths and weaknesses, you know. The other thing to, sorry myself, is how neat you are, the two of us, because we think that's nothing, you know. But that can become a very big issue. If somebody is extremely neat, you know, the other one is a bit untidy and don't care. You know, we don't think about it. But little things, you know, as they say, it's the little foxes that spoils the vine, you know.
The question is, who are the children going to follow? The neat one or the untidy one? And that's even a bigger problem, you know. Yeah, then it's a screaming session because the kids are throwing things all over the house. Yes, but listen, the communication is also a very important factor, you know, as you mentioned, because your communication method in your family home, where you grew up, or in the society you grew up in, you know, that has influenced you in a direction. And whether you communicate through performance, screaming and shouting, or whether you, like you say, shut down and go into your little corner, and that's your way of saying, I've got a problem, I've got an issue, or where you legitimately communicate with the clear and open mindset and true, clear expression, you know. That's critical. But as we said, those are factors that need to be spoken about. And if you don't, you know, you're already putting yourself at risk. But the issue is that, you know, people are afraid to expose themselves and their weaknesses in a new relationship. Okay, you might, I think generally people are courting for about a year and a half, and you don't really know the problems that each other have. I mean, I'm not talking about, you know, the color that you like or don't like. I'm talking about a little bit more deeper issues. and where people are afraid to expose themselves and afraid to become vulnerable with one another, out of fear that the relationship will be compromised, at some point. You still want to feel like the guy, not like a little one because you have a problem, and the lady wants to feel like the girl, not like she's, somebody with major issue.
But I think when it comes to premarital counseling, we should come bearing it all. It's because you will eventually, or should I then say, the truth will eventually come out. I can't hide the monster within me for too long. One day, one way or the other, it will become somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, if I genuinely love someone, and I'm now saying I am going to be tied to this person for the rest of my life, we need to be open. We need, what is love? Love is me coming, bearing all. I need to be comfortable being vulnerable. Let me rather tell you the truth about who I am, and my weaknesses and my strengths and my habits and my whatever. And then so that you're also in a better position to decide as to whether you want to spend the rest of your life with this person or not. And I think sometimes people will appreciate you being honest with them. And saying thank you so much for being open and being vulnerable about this aspect of your life instead of hiding it. And then we find out later on and then it becomes a bigger issue.
Absolutely.
And by then we now have children. By then we now have acquired so much. By then so much, and then the longer we prolong it, the bigger the issue will be.
So true. And the other big thing for me is where people spend so much time and money planning the wedding, and I say this with respect, but it's almost about like sometimes impressing people, where I want this smart, beautiful wedding that people can talk about it for many years to come, but they forget something critical is actually about the actual marriage, and planning for the marriage, and again having proper counseling for the rest of your life that we're going to be together. And I think that must really be emphasized, in premarital counseling, that it's about the marriage, even though everybody wants a beautiful wedding, but still the marriage for me is so much more important than the actual wedding.
So the point here is then, again, to repeat, just the purpose of premarital counseling is just to put you in a better position to, where you eliminate potential harmful issues to your relationship before they become a problem. And I suppose ultimately that's what premarital counseling is about, Yeah.
And the other thing is, you said it a while ago, Tamika, and I want to agree, somebody that counsels you must be married. Very important. I feel that you can't counsel others and give premarital counseling if you've never been married. And I honestly feel being a pastor also just doesn't qualify you to give marital counseling. I feel it's much more than that. Don't just think because you're a pastor you can come and give premarital counseling. You must have studied that or have the experience or really have in-depth knowledge before you can just go and counsel people.
So look, we're going to end tonight's today's session, and if you have any comments, opinions, we'd like you to share with us. Obviously, I don't know everything. I profess to know everything, but unfortunately I don't. So we would like you to, throw your comments, pass on your comments and your opinions and, some advice if you have. Give us some counsel if you can. Yes. We'd appreciate that. It would be lovely. Again, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time, and just like, please.
Yes, and subscribe.
And subscribe.
Yes.